I still remember the sound of their fists pounding on my door. Desperate, frantic, the same rhythm people have when the world finally stops handing them excuses. I didn't open it, not at first. I just stood there in the hallway, watching the shadow of the man who used to call himself my father tremble against the frosted glass. Funny how life circles back. He once told me I owed him everything. That night, as I stared at the blurred shape of him leaning on my doorframe like a dying monument, I felt nothing. No fear, no anger, no sadness. Just clarity. The cold kind that comes after years of being told your worth belonged to someone else. And yes, I had been kicked out of that house once. But that was before I learned that silence can be a sharper weapon than rage. Back then, when I was still foolish enough to love them. I was 22 when I brought home my first paycheck. A moment of pride, stupid and naive. I remember handing the envelope to my father, expecting the usual grunt of approval. Instead, he flipped through the bills like a landlord inspecting rent. 85%, he said without lifting his eyes. Your brother's studies, your duty. The remaining 15% is for your pocket money. Pocket money? My salary? My life? I laughed at first, thinking it was a bad joke. He didn't. He stared at me the way a man stares at a tool he expects to bend without breaking. When I refused, he didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply walked to the front door, opened it, and pointed outside. If you won't support this family, he said, then you're no part of it. My mother watched silently. My brother avoided my eyes. I left with a backpack, $60, and a lesson carved into bone. Blood is not always family. Family is not always human. Discovery, the truth they hid. For years after that, I worked. Harder than I should have, smarter than they expected me to, and quieter than they deserved. But silence has a way of revealing what rage hides. I learned through mutual acquaintances that the money he demanded from me wasn't for my brother's studies. It was for my father's debts, his gambling, his pride. My brother? He never finished school, didn't even try. I swallowed that information like a stone, heavy, cold, settling deep. That was the day I stopped wanting reconciliation. That was the day strategy replaced emotion. Shift, the plan they never saw coming. I didn't confront them. I didn't send angry messages. I didn't return home hoping they'd changed. Instead, I built a life they couldn't enter. A new city, a new job, a new name on the lease. A new circle of people who didn't see me as an ATM with a pulse. I invested every spare cent, not in them, in me. Over the years, the distance grew, not just geographic, but moral, emotional, spiritual. I built myself into someone they could no longer guilt, manipulate, or demand from. And I waited. Not for them, for the day they'd need me. People like my father always need someone eventually. Execution, when karma needs a little help. The call came on a Sunday morning. Jack, your father, we lost everything. Your brother is in trouble too. We need your help. Help. What a flexible word. I didn't answer, but I did keep the voicemail. 2 weeks later, they found my address, stood on my porch, banged on my door like beggars demanding royalty. I opened it slowly. My father's face sagged with exhaustion. My brother's with shame. My mother wouldn't even look at me. We need money, my father said, his voice cracked. Just until we get back on our feet. I studied him the way he once studied the notes in my paycheck. Evaluating, calculating, emotionless. How much? I asked. He hesitated. Whatever you can give. I nodded, walked inside, closed the door, and locked it. They waited outside for 5 minutes, 10, 20. When I finally slid the envelope under the door, my father snatched it like a starving animal. He opened it and froze. Inside was a single note. "This is the 15% you once said belonged to me. I figured you could use it now." There was no money, just the reminder of the exact moment he stopped being my father. Resolution: the freedom of walking away. I listened to the silence that followed, a silence louder than any apology they could have offered. They didn't knock again. They didn't call. They just left, carrying the weight of their own choices. As for me, I went back to my coffee, my life, my peace. Some people say revenge should be loud, explosive. But I've learned the truth. The most devastating revenge is living a life they no longer have the power to touch.